I've never been particularly great at staying in touch with people. That's probably an understatement. I am really quite bad at staying in touch with people. There have been plenty of relationships in my life that have come and gone, friendships and everything else that have come and gone, and mostly they sort of dissipate because neither myself nor the other person, to be fair, but we just don't put that effort in to routinely touch base. Depending on how I look at this, it is in some ways easy to look at this and think to myself, well, was it a real friendship? That's probably not fair. They are if you have a friendship and for several years and then you kind of lose touch or whatever, those several years still happened, right? So it's not a fair thing to say, was it a real friendship? There's always the question mark of, well, was it a friendship born completely out of convenience, right? Was it just that it was easy to maintain when you were still physically in a similar space? As I've gotten older and had a higher quantity of professional relationships enter into my life, the same pattern has occurred where you kind of have a professional relationship with someone. Maybe you work together frequently for an extended period of time. And then once that project is over, or that you leave that job, or they leave that job, or whatever, that it just sort of dematerializes. So this has always bothered me. I don't like losing those relationships, but on the same token, I haven't done anything in particular to grab them back or maintain them or anything else. So it's kind of like you get what you give kind of thing. So anyway, I've been trying to be better about this or different about this, particularly over the last, let's call it 6 to 9 months. I've been trying to go out of my way to both touch base with people who I haven't in a long time, and also in cases where maybe I'm in regular contact with someone and then I'm not anymore, trying to maintain that better. Now, I know people who this comes very naturally to, where it's just easy to maintain these things. They don't have to think about it. For me, it's both. It both seems like a lot of work, and also it almost brings with it a certain level of. It's almost nerve-wracking in some ways. It takes a certain something out of me to reach out to someone who I haven't spoken to in, maybe months or years, or could even be longer, to reach out to them and say, hey, you want to grab a cup of coffee? You want to grab a lunch? Whatever. Like, just the act of doing that is difficult. And then you get there and you have to kind of, you're going to make some small talk with them and discuss old times. And it's a whole thing, right? What I've found, though, in doing this is a couple of things. And I thought I'd share them. One thing that I've noticed is that, and this probably isn't a surprise to anybody, but it's that initial reach out that's probably the hardest part of all of it. That initial reach out of like, hey, haven't spoken with you in like 10 years. Are you still in the area? Do you want to grab a coffee? Do you want to hop on a Zoom call and chat? Like, whatever your preferred medium of that sort of thing is, that initial reach out is difficult. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why that's difficult. I'm sure psychologically, there's a almost like a power dynamic thing there. Afraid of, fear of rejection, all sorts of things. But what I've noticed is that, first of all, you have to kind of almost get in the mindset of like, well, I'm just going to do this. And they can, at that point, the ball's in their court. They can choose to engage with this or not. I'm not going to be upset about it either way. I'm just going to let it shake out from there. But at the very least, I've done this much and I can stop thinking about it and I can stop being like, oh, who I should reach out to, so-and-so. Another thing that I've noticed is that oftentimes it works out just fine. Go and grab a lunch or whatever. And that conversation tends to flow very easily. Like once you're actually there, it's almost like just being back with old times. Any anxiety around, if we get together, is it going to be awkward? Are we going to have anything to talk about? Are we just going to sit there and stare at each other? I don't think that's founded in most cases. I'm sure there are cases where that can happen. But generally speaking, I haven't found a problem with that. And by the way, I'm not the best at something like, just carrying conversation. But it tends, both sides have that same idea, that same anxiety around things. And it's very, but I don't think it's founded. I think once you're actually there and in the moment and all that, it kind of just flows easily. There are things to talk about. Think about it logically. You used to share all sorts of things together, whatever those things were, friendships, professional stuff, whatever. And then a bunch of time has passed, which means that a whole bunch of events have occurred in the interim, which are things that you don't know about each other. In some ways, logically, it would make more sense that it would be harder to have a conversation with someone that you see every single day than someone that you haven't in a long time. The third and final thing that I want to say on this, like sort of what I've learned along the way here, I liken this very much to other things that might bring along with them certain anxiety. For example, I'm not saying that all these apply to me or apply to you or anything else, but just some examples of things that often do that. It's similar to presenting in front of people. It's similar to doing networking events. It's similar to any of these things that are very often pointed at as things that people have anxieties or phobias around. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And I think this is the main thing that I've taken away from really a much more concerted effort over the last, we'll call it 9 to 12 months of just trying to do more of this sort of stuff, more intentional socialization. It gets easier every time. The first time that you reach out to someone who you haven't spoken with in 5 years is kind of nerve-wracking. But the next time you do it, you will have at least had one practice round in you. And the third time you do it, and the fourth time you do it, and the fifth time you do it, every single time, it almost becomes practiced. You can kind of go to the same group of fallbacks or lines or however you want to look at it in cases where you get stalled out or you're not sure what to say or whatever. Each time you do it, it will get a little bit more fluent and easy and practiced. And in a case where you're doing something, I'm not suggesting that, friendships and relationships should be practiced, right? But in that case where you've got to get back into the swing of something, in the case where you have an anxiety around something, having a little bit of practice under your belt, having those fallback kind of mechanisms and methods goes a long way towards being able to ease any issues there, or ease any, tenuous feelings. So I gotta say that for me, having done quite a bit of this recently, I've found it quite rewarding and like an important thing that I'm very glad that I have more intentionally been doing this as of late. If there's anyone for you that you haven't talked to in a while and you just always think to yourself in the back of your head, oh, I should really reach out to somebody, just do it. Reach out, find, we are surrounded these days with messaging platforms. I'm sure you can get a hold of them on one of them. Text them, DM them, LinkedIn them, whatever it is that you, wherever they are, reach out. And maybe they're not, in some of these cases, I've reached out, we've had lunch once, and then that was it. In other cases, now I'm in regular contact with another person. And that social contact is a very important thing, particularly in today's world. So I would encourage you, if any of this sounds familiar to you, just give it a whirl. Just try it. Maybe make yourself a list. Make yourself a list of 3 to 5 people that you haven't reached out to in a while. And just, once a week, reach out to somebody else. You'll be surprised how more fluently and naturally it comes each time you do it.